Hello, welcome back to the Summer Series 2023 in association with H&H. We're here, we did it. After 3 weeks, it's our final session, happy and sad. For those that don't know me, after all these 3 weeks, or those just tuning in on demand, I am the founder of the Inspiring Workplaces group, Matt Manners. I just want to say a huge thanks to all our storytellers, sharing their time and expertise to help spark inspiration and imagination into your workplace strategies, all with a view to creating people-first organisations. Thank you to our headline partner, H&H. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you, and we can't wait to start preparing for the Workplace Inspire-a-thon, our 24-hour global online event this October. Thank you to all our annual partners. They've been running across your screen as they are right now, at the bottom of your screen, all series. They quite simply make this possible to make our community and content free for you. So please do go check them out. Thanks very much. And thank you to you for tuning in. After 3 weeks of little nuggets about the Inspiring Workplaces group, you might think that I might be out of them. Alas, sadly, no. And here's the last one. We love what we do. Our purpose of changing the world to the world of work puts us in contact with inspiring people like you watching, that are striving to improve the lives of those around them in and outside of work. You give us that energy to keep pushing forward and driving positive change. So thank you very much for helping us with our purpose. So here we are to the last session of the summer series, and today's storyteller, Ali Bunin. Ali has nearly 25 years of experience leading internal communications and employee recognition programs for large matrix organizations across healthcare, finance, and professional services. She currently leads teammate communications and recognition for Advocate Health, one of the largest US non-profit healthcare systems, with, wait for it, 150,000 teammates across 6 states. Prior to that, she led global internal communications for Russell Reynolds Associates and spent nearly a decade at one of our old award winners, Northwell Health, in New York's largest healthcare employer, amongst other roles. I met Ali quite a few years ago now. Absolutely amazing. I can't wait for her to come on screen. So I will get to her title of her talk for today, and that's Mixternal Communications. Your internal message is no longer internal. So please welcome the brilliant Ali Bunin. Thank you so much. Hey, Ali. Oh, I'm just wondering if Ali, I can't hear Ali at the moment. Ali, I think you need to unmute. There you go.
Matt, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. There we go.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here and inspired to be here.
Great. Well, I'm going to exit stage left right now. I'm going to let you do your thing, and I'll speak to you in about 20, 25 minutes.
Sounds good. Thank you. Well, it's great to be talking about mixternal communications. When you think about workplaces and inspiring workplaces, and all of you watching having such an impact on the workplace experience, the employee experience, we think about how our profession has evolved, employee communications, and it's really now often referred to as internal communications. So I'm here to share a little bit of a story and maybe debunk the theory of internal communications, which I refer to now as mixternal communications. So the good news is that internal communications are more important than ever before. I would say thanks to COVID-19, we really had a shift in how we were communicating with our employees, how we were enabling leaders to communicate, And, it just became such an essential part of the workplace. And for that, I'm grateful. But the other news, as I say here, is there really is no such thing as internal communications anymore. So we'll dig into that. It might be a little bit of a controversial statement, but I believe it is true. And if we're going to keep doing the work that we've been doing to inspire our employees, we need to really start being thoughtful about what's happening around us, even more so than before, and thinking about how that impacts the work we're doing. It impacts the role of the communicator. And times have changed, times have shifted significantly. So, first, I think employee communications appear to be under attack. And what I mean by that is that every word has been scrutinized, perhaps more closely than ever before. The headlines, the timing, the tone, every single word is being scrutinized, where employees are really looking for things to grab onto, right? Especially post-COVID and hybrid working, and frontline teammates really looking for messaging that they can be inspired by, that they can resonate with. And our job really, really can make a difference in how a message is received or transmitted to our colleagues. So it always really mattered to employees, but what has really changed? The market is looking. So when you think about our messaging and the market and how things are taking shape, we can only look at some of the most recent examples to see the impact of that. So I'll share here just some examples. My favorite one is "Stop leaking memos," says the leaked memo from education officials, where messages are leaking quicker than before. Maybe messages always leaked, but it's very public now. Here, Meta, formerly Facebook, sent out a message talking about how they were vulnerable to Apple, and that message quickly leaked. So the company's stock had jumped, right? And a message after really comparing themselves to Apple, the stock jumped the other way, right? It actually had a negative effect on the stock and the health of the business. So a leaked internal employee communication. This one at Disney was really striking, I thought. So Disney was planning to do layoffs and a hiring freeze, which unfortunately so many companies had to go through over the last couple of years here in the States, especially. And what really struck me about this is that the employee communications went to a division of leaders within the company, and that leader guide was leaked. And so what that tells me is that even the leaders were struggling to connect with the company and didn't trust the company and felt that they could leak that information externally. So, that's a huge issue that we'll get to in a couple of minutes. But when you think about trusting your leaders and enabling your leaders with communications, and those communications are leaking, that tells me there's a real engagement problem within the organization, even at the highest ranks of the organization with the leadership. Similarly here, Microsoft went through some layoffs, and their leader guide about how to talk to employees about these changes was leaked. And when you think about the integrity there, and you think about the concept of mixed-external communications, that every word we write or communicate has the potential to go externally even before it ever reaches your employees. That is just a striking concept, I think, and something we've never really had to grapple with as much as we have lately. So I share those examples, but there are many, many, many more. But when you think about, again, the work we're doing, you need to start thinking about this concept. So what does leaked information do? Well, first of all, we know that it impacts the stock price. We know that it impacts the health of the business. But what about the employee and the consumer experience? When messages leak externally before they're ready, before we've prepared our employees, it impacts the employee experience, and it has the potential to impact the consumer experience. So CEOs and senior leadership of companies really need to care about this, right? Maybe they don't care as much about what happens internally in terms of a message, but the minute that message goes externally, right, and it has the impact on the business and the health of the business, they will start to care even more. Brand reputation can be at risk. Leadership integrity, right? There was a recent example, many of you may have seen this. A CEO was giving the employees, they had a town hall, and the CEO basically told this group of employees, a very large group, to suck it up and kind of deal with some of the bonus cuts and stop whining and really do better, do more, do it faster. It only took 10 minutes for that town hall webinar recording to leak. And it went viral very quickly. And I think most importantly about that leak was that that leader was immediately put on notice, and that leader lost their job as a result, right? They lost all of their reputation in such a fell swoop. And again, leaking a town hall recording is truly something that's unethical, in my view. But at the end of the day, all of this leaked information leads to influence. It leads to a trigger effect of something else. But most importantly, in my view, and for today's topic, it really changes what employees know, believe, and do. It changes behaviors. It changes their thoughts. It colors their experience in the workplace. And that's really what we're here to care about, right? So when you think about the definition of mixed-external communications, it means lots of different things. But I summarize it here as really understanding that our employees are consumers. Our employees are likely in the communities that we serve. And our employees are getting deluged with information from so many different sources. And so you have to consider that they're probably hearing about things before their manager informs them. I mean, it's just when you look at an organization, I'm brand new in my organization, but in former roles I've held in very large matrix organization, the cascade, the leadership cascading model takes a lot longer than we think. And oftentimes it's kind of a broken model, right? So employees are hearing about things from their external sources, from social media. They're hearing about things from their neighbor, their friends, their family, sometimes long before they ever heard about it. And so when you think about what's more influential to them, is it their manager or is it all of those other sources where they're getting information? And that's, of course, something that we as communicators can try to influence in our work. I think there's a lot we can do about this. And so I'd like to share some tips and suggestions with you as to what we can do to get in front of this mixed-external communications challenge. So I caution us, I say we're in the era of mixed-external communications. Is it necessarily the case everywhere? Probably not. Is it something that we're probably going to see a lot more? I would think so. So when you think about these tips, we'll evolve them in time. And of course, in your mind, evolve them as you go too, because nothing really stays the same. The only constant really is change after all. So my first tip is to prioritize your channel strategy. When you think about internal communications of the past, you really think about intranets and you think about internal memos and now email, and you think about what's happening, between the manager and the employee. But you really need to think about where are employees really getting their messages? What are their preferences? We're in the age of preference, right? So you need to find out what are your employees' preferences. And then when you know and you have that data, you probably need to pivot your channel strategy. So channel strategy is really, really important. And certainly, even if you don't own the channels, you certainly need to figure out how to influence those channels. And if you don't ask, you don't know. So you may be using data for your email open rates and your time to view and your video watch rates and all those things. Those are really important numbers to consider. But the truth is, if you're not asking your employees, all your different audiences of employees probably have different preferences as to how they're getting their communication. And if we're not asking, we don't know. So I'd encourage you to find out, in addition to the data that you have, what are the preferences? So really importantly is working on your leaders. So I've heard sort of this spectrum of communicators feeling like they can just do so much when it comes to getting leaders prepared to communicate. Leaders need to be believable. They need to be relatable when they're delivering messages. And obviously, they need to be authentic. And all of that takes time, energy, resources. So, in my experience, I've seen a lot of communicators put together great leader guides and they put together great messages, but they never take the time to prepare the leader. Well, a lot of us don't have the resources to do that. But at the same token, leaders need to understand their role as an influencer, and they need to convey that message that you've spent a lot of time working on. Now, you're the communication expert, so you need to figure out how to get those leaders to be more comfortable, more authentic in delivering that message. That is part of our role. And so whatever it is that you have to do to reprioritize and refocus, you need to figure out how to help your leaders. It's a big part of our job. We need to equip our frontline managers. This is probably the most important component. We prepare all these communications, we get our leaders ready to deliver the message, and then we assume that that frontline cascading is happening. We know that the most important person in the room delivering a message is the frontline manager. It's the direct linkage to the consumer, the frontline employee delivering that consumer experience. So we know that they're overlooked and we know they're the hardest to reach. They're not sitting at a computer all the time. If you're in retail, if you're in healthcare, if you're in supply chain, what have you, they're not sitting at a computer. That doesn't mean they don't have access to information. They do. But their frontline manager, the person that they look to for company information, is the one that we are depending on to get them that information. And we know that they're often not able to spend the time preparing. Half the time, they probably have questions that go unanswered. And it really takes creativity and patience and follow through to help these frontline managers do our job with us, right? It's a partnership. So you need to find out if that cascade is happening. And where are they getting their messaging from? Is it the leaks in the press? Is it social media? Is it their family, their friend? Those frontline managers are key to your employee communication strategy, always. So I always like to say we need to give employees what they need, not what they want. I love the Steve Jobs quote, which is, most people don't know what they want. You just have to show them. Right? So employees need easy access to information. They need to get out of the firewall, right? They need somehow, especially our frontline colleagues, need a way to access information easily. It needs to be targeted. You know, if you're doing what I call the peanut butter spread method, if you're just communicating for the masses, there's no way that that message is resonating with everybody. We all have different needs and we all take away different things from the message. You need interesting content. Even if you're talking about a flu vaccine, find a way to make it interesting, right? People need to be interested in what they're reading. You have 5 seconds to grab them. So between your headline and between that first sentence, you need to find a way to do that. You always need to ask yourself, who needs to know? I learned that a very long time ago working at Northwell from a close colleague who said, who else really needs to know? And then once you know what they need to know, what do you want them to believe? What is that takeaway? If you have 6 paragraphs in your email communication, nobody's going to know what to take away, what's important. And last, of course, what does your communication, what do you need them to do as a result? If you're sending out communications and there is no action required, there's nothing you need them to do, then your email should not have been an email. It should have been something else. So you really, again, evaluating that channel strategy, thinking about what you need to give employees what they need to understand the message, to take something away and to do something with it is just so critical. Last but never least, you need a partner with everybody. So staying in lockstep with your internal and your external communications teams, building relationships, aiming to influence your leaders, spending time with your leaders, spending time with your team, really forging those connections is how you turn this mixed-external communications trend into your favor, right? By partnering. Don't let a message go external before your employees know about it. If it's something that's really critical, right? Don't let it change for the company, something that's really jarring potentially to the employee. Do not let that leak. That's on your watch. Build those relationships. Building relationships, I believe, is truly core to having our employee communications get prioritized and funneled down in a way that is most effective. So without relationships, it's going to be really hard for you to do that in any type of organization, whether it's really large like mine, even in a small company or a startup. Those relationships are the key. And I think it's a really big part of our role. So with that being said, we've got this era of mixed-ternal communications. How are we going to use these tools, and how are we going to get in front of it? So there's no such thing as internal communications anymore, but there is such thing as partnership, employee communications, employee engagement, getting it right, and all of that falls in our remit. So I really hope this talk has inspired you to think a little bit differently about employee communications and the concept of mixed-ternal communications, knowing that your role is so critical in all you're doing, but especially into inspiring your workplace. So thank you so much. And I'd love to take any questions, Matt.
Hello, thank you so much. As always, Ali, just fantastic. So much to digest and think about. I'm just trying to pick my first question, really. I'm a huge, as you know, I come from a communications background. My grandfather was a journalist. My dad was in PR, and I found my way into employee comms and engagement. So I think I know that two-way comms is the single most important facet of driving experience, engagement, inspiration in the workplace. You know, that's usually always where it will succeed and fail. Good employee comms, and like customer experience, which always had like 10 times the spend of employee experience, the external factor. Does the external comms still get prioritized over the internal employee comms side of things within organizations? And is there a shift towards spending more internally, or is it just what does it need to take to happen, like a crisis where the external communications happens, where it gets leaked, and my second part of the question would be, those who do it right and fund it right and prioritize it in the right way, will they have a competitive advantage both with how they give their employees a better experience and market share?
Great questions. I'd start with the latter question, which is absolutely the organizations who get it right absolutely have a competitive advantage. I mean, all the data supports that. But employee investment, inspiring workplace investment, engagement investment, communications, all of that has become a boardroom issue, right? Like it's no longer us. You rarely hear that we're trying to get a seat at the table. We're at the table. We're like attached to our leaders' hips most of the time, which is fantastic. It's a boardroom issue now. So I think the ones who get it right definitely have the competitive advantage. I do think it's still disparate between what gets spent on consumer communication and investment versus internal, but I do see that the tides have changed a little bit, particularly since COVID-19 and the pandemic and how remote work and hybrid working has come into play. But there's still a big discrepancy, let's face it. And I think it does take a crisis to get leaders to invest more. I also think it takes, getting usurped by the competition to start making changes internally. But some organizations just inherently understand this, and they understand that in order to grow, you have to have employees delivering that consumer experience. And in order to have that, you and I know both, right? You have to have a lot of things happening really, really well. So when those things break down, I think leaders tend to look at it and then enact some change. So
Fantastic. There's one question. I don't know whether it's a question or not. I think because obviously you're talking about the external aspect of it, that something could actually be communicated before it's even communicated to employees, before it's communicated externally. We're kind of living in an era at the moment where, in social media, where people can, I suppose, one better word, be cancelled. Is that impacting the internal communications profession in the sense of maybe fear driving, they don't want to make one misstep or be misunderstood with something being taken out of context, which might be sent. I'm just wondering if that if you've seen that within your
Yes.
profession, your peers, and if that impacts the employee comms side of things.
Absolutely. So I mean, first off, as I shared in my talk, I mean, we're under attack because communications generally, internal, external, media, everyone is sort of under attack. I think the positive intent behind that is to make us get better at what we do and to be more thoughtful and to adjust the way society has adjusted. So I think in many ways, communications has been slow to evolve, and here we go. We're being pushed and catapulted into doing that. At the same time, I can even share with my own personal trajectory. Communications has evolved so much in terms of how you're speaking to employees and people in general, right? There's just a lot. And I was at a recent, the PRSA conference in Orlando that we recently held called Mixternal Communications. We had our opening session, one of our general sessions rather, was on DEI communications. And I was blown away by how much advancement has been made with respect to DEI communications and things I didn't know. And I'm supposed to be, you know, I've been in this business almost 25 years. And so I thought, wow, this education just opened my mind and expanded my horizons. And I thought, we need to get this message out there because I think, you know, things are moving quickly and there's things that we can do immediately to impact how our employees are feeling, what they know, what they believe, and obviously what they do. So, so I do think, yes, we're under scrutiny, and I don't think that that's going to change, but I do think there's a lot of education and a lot of action we can take to get better. And I think that's really what it's all about, is improving.
Fantastic. What a great answer. And I think it lends itself to one of the themes that have come out over the past week is to remain curious and always be learning and improving. And I think that's one of the things that this world of helping improve the employee experience has a lot of curiosity, a lot of curious people trying to improve and improve for others. So I think that's a brilliant way to end today and the whole summer series. Be curious. So if there's anything else you want to say, Ali, otherwise, just want to say thank you so much. You know, amazing as ever.
Oh, thank you, Matt. It was a pleasure. And thanks for doing this. I mean, 3 weeks of inspiring speakers has me just thinking differently and really enthused. So thank you. And thanks for having me. I appreciate being included.
Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully see you in person soon.
For sure. Take care.
Okay. Take care. Thank you so much. Last big thank you is to my colleague, Amy, who's behind the scenes, been with me every step of the way. For the past 3 weeks, and all the other team members at Inspiring Workplaces, but a special shout out to Amy. That's it for another year. I think we're going to change up the format next year. Spoiler alert, we might try and do 1 week, but 2 storytellers a day. So condensing it down, lots of thought-provoking sessions in 1 week rather than 3. But we'll ask you your opinion on that before we go down that route. Next up, we've got lots of awards, Inspiring Leaders, the people behind Inspiring Workplaces, Work Tech Awards. We open for the 2024 Inspiring Workplaces Awards all over the world, every region imaginable. We are opening on August the 1st with a deadline in February. And we will continue to share content, share ideas, and we want you involved in that on our forum, the Inspire Hub. So please come join us there. That's it. Thank you so much. Having a wonderful summer, and we'll see you soon. Take care.